I'm seeing a lot of discussion from new technicians of how to land that very first job. So this is going to apply for if you've just graduated a trade school or you've learned on your own, that very first position, how to land it. Now there's going to be several steps involved, so there's going to be several videos. This very first video is going to be the one that's the scariest for most people. It's going to be the resume. And the resume is not need to be scary at all. I do want to point out that a resume does not get you a job. A resume is simply a tool that you can use in that job process. So this video, let's talk about resumes, the things, and this is related to entry level. So if you have years of experience, this isn't going to apply. This is related specifically to the ones just getting into the trade. So here's a few things let's go over. Don't be scared of a resume. It's pretty simple. Nowadays, there's a lot of tools out there that can help you. For example, I use Google Documents. They have a resume builder that just goes step by step by step. And there's many online platforms that go through, allows you to just simply enter in this information. And there's tons of different designs. Now, even if you graduated from a trade school, they may help you with resume, but you'd also want to steer clear of that because typically they'll have either one only or maybe even only 4 different resumes they use. And everybody has the same exact template. So we really want to have you standing out from the competition, from your other fellow classmates. So to do that, here's some simple steps we can go through. Now, the style that you pick is entirely up to you. Pick what style that you like the best and just go with it. If you're helping somebody else do it, make sure theirs looks different than yours. All it is a baseline information that the employer is going to want to know. So the first thing is talk about your name. Just put your name in there, your full name, your address, and a phone number, and an email where they can contact you. Now that email address should be something a little professional. There's a lot of people have some pretty clever, funny little email addresses out there, but need to think, is this going to be professional? Maybe you should open up a new email address for that. So have that email address on there, and your address on there is pretty important, especially for an entry-level position, because they want to know that you live fairly local in the same city or whatever. So that's going to be something that's going to be important to have on there. The next line down, this one is, it's a little controversial, is objectives. Now, when you're first starting out, I think objective is a good thing to put on there, but make sure it's not generic. Now, objectives should be something like, hey, I'm starting this new career. I'm excited. I've invested in this new career, and I want the opportunity to work for you in this. Something along those lines saying, hey, you're getting into this trade, and you want to be the best. Come up with something. Read different objectives out there. Just make sure it's not too boring and also not too long. For example, somebody has an objective of, yes, I want to work in air conditioning. That's just bland and boring. Too long would be, hey, I want to work in this career. I've gone to all this schooling. I've done blah, 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 blah. It just needs to be 2 lines. There's something about you being excited to get started in this career, about what you want to be. Maybe you want to be a professional chiller mechanic or whatever it is. Put that objective on there, but also make sure that objective's aligning with the company you're first applying for. So out of that, we have schooling. Now, schooling, you don't have to put a schooling on there. If you've gone to a trade school, any kind of professional school, any kind of degree, or even partial college, you can put that on there and list it. Typically, your GED doesn't really apply at that point, or your high school diploma doesn't apply. So if your only education is high school diploma or GED, that's okay. But probably leave that out and save that space for other things. The next thing I'd put on there is certifications. Now, if you have your GED, you can put that on there under certifications, but certifications, your first one you need to have on there is something like EPA 608 Universal, whatever EPA certifications you have. And remember, the EPA doesn't mean that you're a certified technician. It just means legally you can work with refrigerants. So putting the EPA on there is important because it also shows the employer, hey, you are hireable. You can actually legally work with refrigerants. So that's an important one to have. Any other certifications you have, you want to put on there. I'll put a link below. We'll talk about it later. Some certifications you can get, some easy certifications you can get to help dress up that resume. But a certification does not mean you know how to do these things. It just means you've applied yourself. And that certifications, any extra certifications you got at school, any classes you attended, put those on there. Now, another thing people don't realize they can put under certifications is other things unrelated to HVAC. Maybe your job before was in some other trade, or even maybe it was landscaping or in food service. I know a lot of people have to take a food service certification. That's something you can put on that, food service certification, because that shows, hey, maybe you're going to be working in restaurants, walk-in freezers, and you already understand the importance of food protection. So things like that can really transfer over. Say you had Employee of the Month or any other kind of little thing, the recognition that you got, any little classes you took, certification of attendance. This just shows that you're trainable, that you have invested in yourself, that you're continuously learning. The certifications don't mean you know what you're doing, but it just simply means that you've applied, you take initiative. So that helps dress up that resume, make it look a little bit nicer. So certifications list is something I think is very important. Now, the next thing is a lot of people will put on their skills. And For an entry-level position, keep the skills completely out of it. Just leave that blank. And here's why. I've seen before schools, and they'll say, oh, here's a list of skills. Just go ahead and pick 10 of these and put those on there. No. Even if you've gone to a really good trade school, even if you've had 6 weeks worth of time of building up skills, it's still not relatable to true skills working in an attic, working in a field, working in a basement. So those skills don't really transfer over to true skills. Yes, you have some hands-on experience with that, which is good, which is what school's about. But if you don't really have that real-world experience, leave that skills off of there. If I see a new person coming in and have a list of skills on there, I'm really going to ask them, oh, so you have a skill in superheat. Let me start questioning about superheat to see if you really know what those skills are. So me personally, I like to see skills left off for an entry-level position. Now later, after you have some years of experience, yeah, you can definitely put some skills on there. But for that entry-level position, I would just leave skills off entirely. Now there's still going to be some important places we can put these skills, and that's going to be to our next line. So next, you're going to have a list of other tasks you've performed, other jobs you've done. For example, maybe you worked with lawn maintenance or something with the lawn industry. Now that's some good skills you can put. Ability to work in the heat and very hot climates, had to have attention to detail, had to understand a whole lot of vocabulary, chemical names, had to understand weather, being able to work in a hot climate. It's a really, really important one. Attention to detail, the stress, working in a team environment. These are things you can really put on there. Also, maybe your background was serving tables. That's a great thing you can connect. Hey, customer service, being able to remember details, being able to talk to people. Those customer service skills are very relatable to HVAC. So regardless of what career you've had or what else you've done in the past, any of those little information, those job histories, you want to put under description, put some key words in there like that help build a show how you can connect that to HVAC. And I found that there's a ton of jobs out there that are not related to HVAC at all that still have skills under that job title or job duties that can help relate to that. Any accomplishments you have as well. And also anything else you can relate to that. We had the highest sales on our team. We did the most number of jobs. I got recognized for Employee of the Month. Anything like that, any kind of accomplishment, add that under those job descriptions. So make sure you have the job description, the name of the company, what your position was there, and then the dates that you worked there from January 2020 to February of 2022, whatever that is, put that in there. So now you just add on through there your list of all your jobs where you've worked. And then at the bottom, you can also add some other hobbies or volunteer work. I think a great one to add in there is if you've done any automotive work, because automotive work shows, hey, you know how to take something apart mechanically, work with your hands and hand tools, and then put something back. You can fix some general basic things. That is a very important hobby or important thing you can add to that resume that really does seem to make a difference. And again, this resume does not get you the job. The resume is simply going to be a tool. And it's going to take a little bit of time going through it, but make sure you make it look as nice as possible and also make sure you have your spelling good. Now, here's the sad thing. Spelling and your ability to spell has absolutely nothing to do with your ability in this trade. I've seen people in this trade that were really great spellers and also great technicians. I've seen people in this trade that are really good spellers and horrible technicians. And there's people like me that's, not a bad technician at all, but a really, really horrible speller. I can't spell very well at all. But there are employers out there that's gone through their college degree or other people that spelling was a really big deal for them. Maybe they went to the spelling bee and spelling is an issue with them and they see misspellings on a resume. For those people, unfortunately, they're judging you incorrectly, but seeing misspelled words on a resume is a red flag. So when you get done writing your resume up, hand it to somebody else for them to proofread. Have them look over that resume and be able to look for any misspellings. That's something I have to do. I can check it 1,000 times, send it to somebody else to check over it, and there'll be red marks everywhere on it. So it's just one of the things I have to deal with, and that's okay. I have somebody else look over it. What you want to be careful is not to have somebody else build your resume for you, or at least entirely, because they have these normal set rules and they're looking for applications to say corporations, things like that. Well, HVAC, we have a little different way that we work with and a way we get these jobs. So keep that in mind. And also, like I say, once you have some experience in, you can change how you do your resume. But that very first entry-level resume, keep the skills off of there, apply what you've done, the certifications, other job history. That's going to be a key in there. Now, if you've also worked for a job for, say, just a few weeks, I would just leave that off entirely. You want to make sure you have a job history. Now, if you've worked in a job and you've had years of experience on there, that's something that's really nice to have on there. We also want to make sure that that resume is 1 page only. Now, as you have experience, you can extend it to 2 pages. If you have a long career, you can even get away with 3 pages. But for an entry-level person, 1 page. I mean, really, you're not going to have that experience. You're not going to have all that list of stuff to put on there. So 1 page is something that's going to be, you want to keep it down to. They can have one piece of paper, they can look that over, and they can ask you questions based on that. So 1 page is going to be very, very important. Keep it down to the minimums. Now, anything else you've done too, like volunteer work, if you've done work in the military, definitely list military experience. A lot of companies will even get discounts or even kind of governmental aid systems for employees that have worked in the military. So having that experience on there can definitely be beneficial. So you want to list that for sure. And on top of that, have somebody else check it over, look at it, and then print it out on some really nice paper and print multiple copies of, and keep you a digital version. It's going to take a little bit of time to build that out, but simply take your time, go through it, and it's really not scary. But a resume is something you want to always keep up on. So as you're working, as you get that first job, you want to go ahead and add that first job to your resume. So that way, when you get ready for the next job, all you got to do is continuously update it and continuously modify it. But again, keep that resume short, simple, keep it looking nice and clean. Don't have it too cluttered, not too wordy. I'm notorious for making things too wordy. I always have to cut that down and make it to where it's going to look nice and presentable, because that's going to be a tool. Now, stay tuned for the next video. We got a lot of things to talk about before we get to that first job. This is just one of the many steps.